Okay, perfect. Thank you. Welcome to the Community Services Standing Committee meeting of February 11th, 2025. I can confirm that there is a quorum, and I will hand the chair off to Councillor Archer.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Ferguson. We'll go straight into looking at the agenda. There is a proposed, let's get a motion to accept the agenda in a seconder, and there is a proposed addition. So if we can get a mover. Councillor Cox, and can we get a seconder? Councillor Corbett. And what I have on my thing is adding under administration, item number D, briefing note 2025 O&M. And as well, I don't think we need to say that there's an amendment to the big fund briefing note, do we? Yeah. Do we? Okay. And as well as item B, the briefing note has been amended, which is included in your package. Councillor Cox, are you okay with that addition? Yep. Councillor Corbett, are you okay? Any other additions or comments on the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Next up are the minutes from the January 14th. So if I can get a mover and a seconder, and then we can entertain any questions. Councillor Cox moves.
I will move that the minutes from Community Services Standing Committee meeting on January 14th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
I will second that.
And Councillor Bates. Okay.
You got it.
Has seconded. Any errors, omissions, or corrections?
No.
Mayor Ferguson?
I just, from the minutes, I'm just wondering if we had any more conversations with the TLC organization in regards to their ask regarding the museum. Or that wasn't TLC, but the museum request was in here. I'm just wondering if there's an update about that. Where if they've reached out or contacted us, if we've reached out or if there was next steps with that.
SAO?
No, I have not heard anything. I haven't even actually had a thorough update on your last meeting yet.
Councillor Benwell?
I have a meeting at the museum tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So can you find out if they have presented to the other governments? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other items with regards to the minutes? Excuse me. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Vision and values are in there for your review. They're in every single package, so I'm assuming we can just move right along. And declaration of financial interest? None? Okay. Moving on to the community services report for January. Director Pucci. Or do I have to ask you and then you hand it over?
No, I'm quite fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so everyone had a chance to kind of go through things. Are there any questions from the previous month?
Cool. Sorry, Mayor Ferguson. I was looking at your report.
No,
Thanks for the assistance.
just to follow up, because I haven't been in the gym yet, and I know that your folks were working down there really hard with new equipment, and I'm wondering if the stair climber has arrived.
Director Pucci.
So I have to wait for the capital budget to be approved so that I can order those pieces. So I already have it all picked out, and once the capital budget goes through and is approved, hopefully that stays in there, so then I'm able to update my equipment. But I did have the contractor come in to look at the reupholstery of some of our older equipment. A lot of the times it's not the weights and things like that wear out, it's the soft surfaces like the seats and the cushioning. So we found someone who's able to actually recover them to kind of extend the life of our equipment. And so we're working on that, and then as soon as I get approval, I'll pull the trigger and move forward with getting our new equipment.
Mayor Ferguson.
Perfect, awesome, thank you. I'm just wondering with the pool closures, have you found any increased take up on all of the other programming that's occurring in their gym or at the library?
Councilor Palucci, Director Palucci.
No. So, I mean, going through our attendance numbers, our attendance through January was still comparable to previous months. We'll see, I mean, this month we might see a bigger difference, but we're still busy in the building, we still have lots of foot traffic. But when you're thinking we have between 4,000 to 5,000 people coming in per month, the pool is, I mean, it's usually a quarter or less of that. So I haven't seen a huge change in our attendance overall.
Mayor Ferguson?
Thanks, just one more, I know that folks would come in to access our showers and our shower space if they don't have access to shower space in like their cabins or homes or wherever they're coming from. With our pool closure, does that affect their ability to access shower facilities?
Director Palucci?
No, so because we keep the change room open with showers and all of that, and you're still making like they're cleaned every day and all of that. So we have community members that are using them regularly just for the showers.
I'll keep asking, I have lots of questions, I think our rec department's amazing, and I got lots of, so you guys are doing a fabulous job.
We have been recognized. Mayor Ferguson?
Thank you, Chair. I think you guys are doing a fabulous job. The programming is great. The communication is wonderful. I can see your online presence is making a difference. And people are recognizing that, like saying, hey, we like what we see out there. So just kudos to your folks that are doing a really great job there.
Any other questions or comments on the community services report? Thank you, Director Palucci. Moving on to administration. A, briefing note, bylaw 1060, Town of Fort Smith Community Planning Process Update. There is a proposed or recommended motion to get the discussion going.
I move that public meeting be scheduled for Monday, March 10th at 6:30 p.m. and that council proceed with final edits and second reading thereafter.
Okay, Councillor Tucky seconded. Any discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. What do we have to do to be prepared for this meeting? Do you need council to be present and there for this public meeting? How much information do you want us to be informed of? What is our role for the public meeting, and what kind of information do you want us to be ambassadors for?
SAO?
Excellent question, thank you very much. We are working on communications and information that's gonna go out. We're gonna do sort of a communications blast on all of our sources. We'll probably do a mail out with just sort of what does this look like. And I will provide speaking points to that and updates to council. I would like as many as council as possible to be in attendance. I think that would be absolutely excellent. But we will be providing all the highlights out publicly prior to that.
Councillor Cox?
Thank you. I believe last copy of the plan I saw was going up for edits. For final edits, is there an updated version of the edits available yet, or will it go out to the public before this meeting?
SAO?
The last version had gone to Batch Leadership Council, to leadership to have a review. I followed up a few times and there were no comments back. So the next step is actually the public meeting. And then if there's any comments or suggestions from that, those will be incorporated into the version that we bring forward into the second reading.
Councillor Cox?
Thanks. So yeah, is it available now, this draft copy, the one that went out to TLC? Will we be putting it out on the website?
Yes, it'll be part of our communication.
SAO?
Sorry, yes, it will be a part of our communication sharing.
Councillor Bates?
Sorry, there was some crosstalk happening there. I just wanted to clarify that the plan will be distributed to the public before the public meeting.
It will go up this week,
Okay.
yes.
And
Councillor Bates?
also just wondering if we have a location for that meeting.
SAO?
The curling lounge, right? Yeah, the curling lounge has been secured for that time and that night. That day. Night.
Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to briefing note B, the amended road closure Big Fun and Frolics 2025.
Oh, if it's from, oh, we're not. There's no money being spent, but I involved.
Are you moving?
No.
Oh.
I might be in conflict. No? Okay.
Looking for a motion, Councillor Cox.
I'll move the council approve the following road closure, the Marine Drive between Mill Street and Wapiti Street to close to vehicle traffic from 12 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. on March 14th, and 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on March 15th and 16th, 2025 for the Big Fun and Frolics events.
Seconder, Deputy Mayor Keezer.
He misread that, it's Waller Street, not Wapiti Street, just to be clear.
It says Wapiti Street.
It
says
I'm
Wapiti.
reading Walrus on my electronic version.
Paper
This
says
is the amended
Wapiti.
one.
Oh.
Okay, then thank you.
So we're going with Wapiti?
I will still second it.
Okay. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Keezer.
Reading from the electronic.
Any further discussion on that? Questions?
It's gonna be so much fun.
Okay.
Speaking out of order.
Sorry, not recognized, and so are you, say point of order. Okay, seeing no further questions, comments, I'll call the question, all in favor? Carried. Okay, on the amended backer, we are looking at the briefing note first, so even though under the amended agenda we had C and D, we're gonna do swap D and C, and we'll look at the briefing note for the 2025 operations and maintenance budget and proposed mill rate increase. We'll need a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Touvet.
I move that council approve the 2025 operation and maintenance budget, including the 6.5% increase in the property taxes revenue to ensure physical sustainability.
Is there a seconder? Councillor
I
Bay.
second it.
Okay, discussion, comments or questions? Mayor Ferguson.
Thanks. Number 2, I thought we weren't increasing the honorariums by 2%.
SAO.
The bylaw 1022 specifically says that unless council makes a motion before the council goes out, then it automatically applies. And no motion was made by the previous council, I believe, am I correct? I could not find one. No motion was
No.
made. So because there wasn't a motion made, we had discussed it, it had been brought forward as a discussion, but we didn't actually make a motion on it, then it just automatically applies. It's in the bylaw, it's not brought up, it just happens.
Councillor Touvet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, just like to bring up 2 points. In the title of this thing, we have the 2025 operation and maintenance O&M budget and proposed mill rate increase. I believe the proposed mill rate increase is a separate item. It's covered under accessory.
Sorry,
SAO.
if you look, we did change it in the actual briefing note, it did make it into that one, sorry. So it is the proposed property tax revenue increase would be the proper terminology, where it's listed in the briefing note, or in the back, so.
Okay, so just 1 second. Okay, so that's not going to affect the motion.
No.
Okay, continue on, Councillor Touvet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second item, I would just ask for verification, and it will come as a motion after we either vote, approve or disapprove this particular motion. Is it, would it be in order and acceptable for Mayor and Council to pass a motion to forego the 2% increase as covered under bylaw 1020, I believe was the number.
SAO, I'm confused now. I think you're saying it had to be done by the last council?
I believe the verbiage contained within, that bylaw said, if it's not by the old council, then it wouldn't carry forward.
Councillor Cravette?
For the sake of expediency, we could always do that amendment when we do the actual approval of this motion at regular council meeting next week. As part of that process, put forward a motion. I'm recommending we put forward a motion to, that please not only for the Mike one.
Well, even if we have to accept it according to the bylaw, we could have the motion saying we don't need it back or something. Okay, Mayor Ferguson.
Just, we can't do another motion within the
Yeah,
motion.
correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
he was talking about after.
Oh, okay.
I'm on top of it as chair.
Okay, then you're good.
SAO.
You got this.
It would be my understanding that you would actually have to change that bylaw, that you would have to actually open up and revisit that bylaw. Since if this review does not occur, then there shall be a 2% increase to mayor and council honorarium, which will take effect the following term. So the time to have made that change is before the previous council's term had expired. If council wants to revisit this during the bylaw and policy review that's upcoming, it absolutely can, but at this time, in order to make that motion, you have to amend the existing bylaw.
Councillor Cravette and Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do believe under the authority of mayor or council as covered under the CTV Act, we do have the ability to change bylaws. So I would recommend that we do that as quickly as possible. I think if we're asking for a rate increase that I'm not 100% comfortable with, we have to do it, but I'm not 100% comfortable, and to ease as much of the burden as possible, it's the smallest token that I think we as mayor and council can present to the public is to amend that bylaw or rescind the bylaw, and do something with that bylaw so that our honorary is regained at our current rate.
Councillor Cox.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Mike. I'm certainly in favor of waiving that or turning it back, whatever we do. Just a point of clarification, is it 2% increase for the 3-year term, or is it 2% increase for this fiscal? But just, that was my only question. It's a little bit irrelevant if we're turning it back to this fiscal.
It's a 3-year, no, it's a 3-year term.
Or 3-year,
Yeah,
but-
because the honorary applies to your full term.
Yeah.
Your term of tenure. So those rates would be what you're making currently times 2%.
So it's pretty minor regardless.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? And I'm assuming this would be a recommendation to committee as a whole, okay. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the question, all in favor? Carried. And D, we're moving on to a briefing note, regarding a variance for a caretaker's unit, and Director McNabb is here to speak on the briefing note. Welcome. SAO.
I've asked Director McNabb to be here tonight to actually walk through council through what their roles and responsibilities are when there's a variance in. I know it's the first one that this new council has had the chance to actually review and consider. So I thought there would be a benefit for I'm going to call him Councillor too, Director McNabb to walk you through what the roles and responsibilities are. And thank you for rushing here.
Perfect time.
Without children under your arm.
Did they win?
Practice.
Oh, practice. Okay, take it away, Director McNabb.
Right on. Thank you. So I believe this is in the package, so it's been available for review. I'll just walk through the steps of a variance. And so this is as it pertains to the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw is what gives mayor and council the authority to consider variances. It's a variance to the zoning bylaw itself, and it can be a variance to any manner of things within the zoning bylaw. Thank you. So when it comes to a person putting in a development permit and getting a decision of the development permit and appealing it, there's been some confusion in the past, so just for clarity, that goes to an appeals board, which is struck and includes a member of council, but also citizens. appeal of a decision under the zoning bylaw is not actually heard by council. That would be heard by a development appeal board. Whereas conditional use permitting is heard by council acting as the development officer, so the development officer employed by the town can't make decisions that are conditional, which is why you end up hearing about home occupations as a conditional use in a residential zone. So that's another role and responsibility of council under the zoning bylaw. And then there's variances. So under the section that deals with variances in the zoning bylaw, it allows for some minor variances to lot line setbacks and fence height specifically that the development officer can grant without council having to weigh in. But again, they're minor and there's a fairly finite restriction to what we as development officers can do. This is a variance that varies what's allowed in a commercial or industrial zone. And so I'll just speak to this specifically. And then at the end, ultimately I can't make recommendations on this because this is truly the decision of council. I can just provide some background and answer questions to help you folks make your decision as you see fit. So this particular application was for a caretaker's suite to happen on Highway 5 lot. That lot's currently zoned general commercial. As such, a caretaker's suite is allowed with some stipulations. So a caretaker's unit shall be integral to the main structure. It needs to physically be in the primary structure of that property. It needs to be used for the purposes of providing residence to an employee of the commercial operation to provide caretaking, janitorial, night watch services to that business. So that's to ensure that a commercial lot continues to be used primarily for commercial uses. It also is limited in its footprint of that overall building to no greater than 80 square meters. So there's a size restriction to the overall footprint of the suite or the area that's actually used for residents within that main building. Of course, with the exception of motels, hotels, where the floor area may exceed that at council's discretion. So that is essentially the limitation that exists normally within our zoning bylaw. If a person wanted to build a suite within a commercial building on a commercial lot, use it for an employee an employee can be a loose term. Maybe it's free rent for the sake of providing night watch service, but nonetheless, an employee of the organization to stay in no greater than 80 square meters, that we can approve as development officers. It's a normal part of the bylaw. In this particular instance, there is a manufactured home that has been moved onto this property. And that manufactured home does meet the size requirement, but is not integral to the main building. And so this property owner is looking to use that building separate from the main building as a caretaker's unit. A unit, not suite. A suite implies that it is, again, inside of and integral to a bigger building. So this is a unit, dedicated unit, separate. And that person will provide a night watch. I don't know the exact employment relationship, but nonetheless have somebody on the property that provides some oversight to ensure that there isn't any damage to the property, vandals, theft, etc. Just going through the considerations, so a caretaker's unit again must be secondary to the commercial use. So there must be a commercial license, and that commercial license must mean that there's some sort of business operation taking place and that this is secondary to it. What's tricky about that is there could be a business today, gone tomorrow, residents still there, and it becomes a residential lot. So there's always that challenge. It's not really contemplated well in our bylaw, but the challenge exists. Any tenant, again, in that caretaker's unit shall be an employee of the principal commercial use. So it can be a standalone separate business. That principal use that's using that main building should employ that person for that purpose. The building will have to comply with all the parts of the zoning bylaw, which means that it will have to meet all the setbacks, all the fire code, building code, et cetera, that any other development would need to meet. And at the end of the day, what is being asked of this council is to consider the variance basically to allow a standalone dwelling unit to be used for this purpose as a caretaker suite on an otherwise commercially zoned lot.
Thank you, Director McNabb, for that fairly concise brief. Are there any questions or comments from councilors? Councilor Bay.
I'm just wondering what the rationale for the original rules about it being integral to the main building. Do we know, is there a reasoning for that?
Director McNabb.
That's a great question. That predates my role. I honestly am not certain. One thing that I would like to speak to is the fact that it exists elsewhere in the community, that a residential unit is on a commercial lot, not integral to the main building, nor housing an employee, nor is there even an active business license associated with said property, which again speaks to the constraints of the bylaw in terms of ensuring that commercial lot remains commercial and not over time becomes residential. So there's some precedent, is what I'm saying, whether right or wrong, but it exists.
Councilor Benwell.
Yeah, but you said the main gist of it is that he's asking if he can move that trailer onto that property for the caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end here, also asking if we could reverse the $2,000 fine that he was given because he didn't know that there was this bylaw for moving that said trailer.
Director McNabb.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. So I'm only addressing the variance request here, and thank you, I forgot to mention that in my initial discussion. When a SOTI ticket, so a summary offense ticket information, or a ticket the police officer would give you is written and issued by any peace officer, including our bylaws, the appeal of that ticket cannot be heard by mayor and council, and the only appeal procedure is stated on the ticket and described at the time of issuance, and it can only be appealed through the justice system, so through the courts. So, yeah.
Councilor Corvette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With the proposed or the upcoming community plan, has this actual item been addressed about the caretaker unit having to be an integral part of the, or is it currently sitting that the bylaw will remain as proposed?
Director McNabb.
Thank you, Councillor. So right now we're working on the community plan, and the community plan is somewhat of an overarching guiding document. We're about to move into the zoning bylaw review, and at that point, that's certainly something that can be brought up for further discussion since it's still in the draft phase. I don't know if the SDA wants to speak to it further, but.
SAO.
Bylaw, we are still under the zoning bylaw though. So regardless of what that could be 6 months, that could be a year down the road till that's finalized. So we are still bound by the zoning bylaw that's in play right now.
Any further questions or comments? Councilor Cox.
Hi, thank you. Just wondering, if this is something that we keep moving forward on, are there any concerns about, because a lot of the commercial properties are potentially off water and sewer, off the grid. So by doing this, are there potential impacts to kind of overloading our water and sewer folks if all of a sudden they're having to supply residential services versus commercial?
Director McNabb or SAO.
Thank you. Per our water and sewer bylaw, we're obligated if an application comes in and there's an adequately constructed water and sewer system, we're obligated to provide the service. Granted, what you're saying is true, residential would have a higher demand of water and sewer use. But all I have as an opinion will be, if we're providing the service, we'll be making those trips regardless. But that's a fair question. I don't have a good answer to.
Councillor Cox?
Just, yeah, it's one more clarification. So is the being able to have the residents on there contingent on having a business license on the property, or was that? So if something changed later and they didn't have an active business license, that could potentially make this null? Having the residents there could be nullified, or?
Director McNabb?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, per the bylaw, we could enforce against the ongoing use of a residential unit should commercial operation cease on that property. I would be hesitant, or it would be a challenge, given our current housing situation if the dwelling unit became available. And I think even more challenging predating me is there's non-compliance that has been allowed to continue on a number of other commercial and industrial lots, so it would be a larger issue, and we would be taking a number of housing units off of the market. So I'm not saying that we wouldn't work with them on that non-compliance, but it would be challenging.
Deputy Mayor Keezer?
Just listening to you, trying to understand this, and I just got to get it clear in my head. How many non-compliances do we have? Like you're saying, we're going to get rid of a number of houses. I'm wondering if this is like 10 houses or 2, like, is this a big problem or a small problem that we're facing? Because adding this to it could be the tipping point to me.
I would have. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. I would have to get back to you with the exact numbers. I don't want to make them up. It would be greater than 2.
Okay, just
Mayor Ferguson?
Thanks. I think that I'm in favor of granting this variance for this business, for the reasons as they stated in their letter. I think it would be unfair to vote against it, particularly if there's so many within our community. We are a small town with limited housing options for folks. This looks like it is the intent of both letters is that this is a caretaking initiative. It's going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, as this person states. He has vandalism on his property. Having someone there full time is going to alleviate some of that risk. I know, with business, I like having someone in my building because then I know someone's going to say something if someone's on my property. And I don't think just because it's happening in other reasons is a good enough reason to accept it for this one. I think standalone, it meets the size. I don't think it matters whether it's connected to the physical building or not. If you want quality of life for your employees. So I know separation from business is hard, and if you're living in where you work, you never have separation, work-life balance. So perhaps that's something we'll achieve with something like this, and something we have to look in with our zoning and bylaw, and what was the reason why does it have to be connected? That's unfair to put on folks, perhaps. And so I wouldn't get too carried away with how many of this happening with everybody else, but just look at this for what as it's presented to us. I think we should definitely approve this variance for this particular request.
Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, I'm also in agreement that we should approve this, but I'm just, Director McNabb, I'm just wondering if there's anything that we can do as part of this process. So you mentioned the risk of what happens if things go sideways, whether it's updating our bylaws later on, or maybe as this specific process, is there anything we can do to reduce the risk of that happening now, or with respect to this variance?
Director McNabb?
Thank you, Councillor. So I think that the bylaw in itself is robust enough to deal with non-compliance issues. It's, again, moving towards enforcement on something that historically has not been enforced, and equitable enforcement of it would make it a larger endeavor at this point. So, if I may make one more statement, there is just a point, there is not a limited number of residential properties available to also put residential units on within our community. So, I mean, there are available residential lots. There are limited commercial lots relative to the residential lots available. Would be all I wanted to add.
Any further comments or questions? Do we need a motion to either approve or disapprove with regards to a variance?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, we can have one?
I don't see one in my packet. I would entertain a motion with regards to Councilor Manuel.
Motion to,
Okay.
Oh, okay, sorry, go ahead.
to accept the variance report, to allow the, Mr. Lapine to put the trailer on his, commercial lot.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Councilor Bates. Any further discussion on the motion? SAO, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just pointing out that there was not a motion in there because we didn't want to make a recommendation.
Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Director Snell. Moving on to other business. I don't have anything on my list. So, any other business? Seeing none, excusing of councilors. Looking for Councilor Bates.
I move that Councillor Eaton be excused from the Community Services Standing Committee meeting on February 11th, 2025.
Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor Keiser. All in favor? Carried. Date of next meeting, the next Community Services Standing Committee meeting will be March 11th. That's the correct date, okay? 2025. And I guess as chair, I can't move, we adjourn, so I'll have to give up my favorite motion.
Move that we adjourn.
Mayor Ferguson moves that we adjourn. Councilor Cox, your second. All in favor at 7:45. Thank you very much.